the great speakers we've had over the years. It is really a fun thing to do. So have a look maybe this week at some of the speakers that you might have missed in the past, or just rewatch something so great. Your guest speaker is me today, except that it's recorded because I was supposed to be away. So, anyways, we're going to be learning a little bit more about how movies can really guide us on our spiritual path. Thank you. So, I'm quite certain that my favorite movie is probably not yours. Yet, there are lessons that we can take away from any movie. And as was recently noted in You've Got Mail talk that I gave not long ago, you can really learn a lot by the movies that we love. And we can learn a lot about ourselves from those that we actually don't like as well, which I find very interesting. So bear this in mind if Sense and Sensibility is not your cup of tea, so to speak. So my mom and I have this great love of older English movies. Yet her first love really is the books that they came from, right? Indeed, every year she rereads her favorite book by Charlotte Bronte called Jane Eyre. It really touched her heart when she was a girl. But while she reads her books, I, although an avid reader of spiritual and biographical books, I like to watch the old British movies. I like to watch them on the screen and just engage. And I want to take in all the fascinating relationships. And I want time to think about them as opposed to just reading them, because I feel like I'm just reading the words of the author and trying to have her visuals. But I want my visuals. I want to feel and see what's coming through me so that I'm hearing and seeing and feeling my interpretations. And I find that very different than reading those books, but I still have read them as well. So it's like becoming an observer of your own life. When you are watching a movie, you can literally do that in your own life because you are the observer of the movie. But what if you could watch your life as though it were on a screen in front of you? In many ways, this is like what the yogis teach us to do, to be the observer and not so stuck in the story, so far in that you can't see what's going on. So have you ever been stuck in a story that you can't get out of? Like a big argument that you need to get beyond? So does it make sense to you that it would be better to be the observer watching the story? So that when you're having a drama with the family or a group of people, or you're at the dinner table or whatever, rather than feel absorbed and taken over, you can observe. You can see each character at the table living out a certain role. And then you can perpetuate your own ideas. And you can see what they're trying to share with you. You can see what their needs are. If you're observing, you're not reacting. You're not overreacting. Suddenly, if you saw things this way, your emotions would change. You'd be able to manage them better. You'd be able to see that. Here's an example. So grandpa is at the table. There he goes again. He's playing the old warrior, right? The adventurer, the warrior, the I'm in control guy. And Aunt Lila over there in the corner, she's the damsel in distress who's always feeling hard done by. While cousin Billy just wants to be that down home cowboy who doesn't really care about anything else but his job because that's how he gets all his toys. Then there's your sister over there, Cindy, who's definitely pulling out her best Minnie Mouse interpretation today. Like, oh, it's okay. It's all good. Don't worry. Everything's fine. But you got to love them all, right? Because they're all just doing their best. They're all playing the roles that express their deepest needs, unmet needs, or it wouldn't be annoying you. People who live their needs met tend to be easier to be around. But when you're the observer of these experiences, you're watching more objectively, and you are not overwhelmed by what you see anymore. In fact, we can start by looking at a specific experience in our own lives, imagining it on the screen, and then look at the parts. Can you do that? Can you imagine a situation that was uncomfortable and then just observe it from a distance now? You were sitting over there and someone else was over there, and then what happened? What were the unmet needs people were trying to share with you? And what was the role you were playing? I mean, that's the most important part, isn't it? I often find I go into situations and I have to catch myself not to be the rescuer. It happens. I'd rather now go in with the greater awareness of supportive listener, maybe a coach if necessary. So ask yourself, what role have you taken on in your life and in a variety of circumstances in which you live? Can you see that more objectively when you're looking at it as the observer? When we look at things objectively, we might be able to see the many characters that are fighting for control in the moment. They just want to be heard. You can see the loudest person and know that somehow they feel disadvantaged or helpless, or they wouldn't be yelling. You can see the person who's most fearful in the room because they're kind of hiding and trying to stay away. They barely say a word. Maybe you can see yourself, which is really all we need to do for success in this life, is to see ourselves. What am I doing in this scene? What am I being called to understand about myself? What am I feeling? And how, as a unity member in awareness, how can I bring love into the situation, caring about me and the other people around me? That's the challenge sometimes, isn't it? Taking care of yourself while caring for others, because often people don't want us to take care of ourselves. They want to be heard and understood. Emily Cady said in one of her Unity books called Lessons in Truth, we have sought knowledge and help from outside sources, not knowing that the source of all knowledge, the very spirit of truth, is lying latent within each one of us, waiting to be called on to teach us the truth about all things. Yeah, there is something inside that knows the truth. You can welcome it up and take it with the observer into every situation. There's so much going on inside of us that can help us in any moment. The truth is in there. We simply have to look for it. And the observer nature is a great part of that truth. Charles Fillmore also said, you must learn to watch your consciousness, its impulses and desires, as the chemist watches his solutions. That's an observer, isn't it? Man forms his own consciousness from the elements of God, and he alone is responsible for the results. That's really important. So let's take a moment to look at the actual movie Sense and Sensibility. So it's given us a lot that we could possibly unfold for ourselves. So Sense and Sensibility was written as the first novel by the young author Jane Austen, and it was published in 1811. So at the time, it was culturally unacceptable for a woman to put her name on a book. So it was the name of the author for this book was By a Lady, if you can believe that. By a Lady. Yeah, well, that went on for a long time where women were not allowed to put their names on books. Eventually, they were also putting men's names on the books that they wrote. But thankfully, in the past 214 years, 13 years, since Sense and Sensibility was written, we've gone beyond that outdated mode of viewing women as weak, as less than. Turns out that since the 1970s, 20% of 20% of books were published by women. And now, since 2020, in the last statistic I could find, we are publishing more than 50% of the books. And if you look at the Unity books that have been coming out, you can see there's a big trend to have more women writers. So in the movie Sense and Sensibility, or in the book, they're the Dashwood sisters, Eleanor, Marion, and Margaret. They have a stepbrother, John. And the book follows the Dashwood sisters and their widowed mother. They have to leave their estate because everything went to the next son in line. And even the widow lost access to her own dishes. Strange times. So they moved to Barton Cottage, owned by a distant relative of Lady Dashwood, and Sir John Middleton is her cousin. And it's a movie and a book about love, romance, and heartbreak. It's set in Southwest England, London, and Sussex between 1792 and 1797. Why do I like this book? It's nothing to do with the present time, or is it? Sense and Sensibility has become one of those movies that I've watched over the years because it has a gentle flow in this harsh world. It has a gentle flow. And it helped me to find calm and peace during difficult times. It reminded me of the deep relationships that were possible to evolve in families. And it reminded me of kindness and how it can also be brought forth when people are not able to return it to you. In Sense and Sensibility, you're going to find issues of creating balance, the values of relationships, the nature of love, what are social expectations, how do you grow out of trials, hope and redemption. I mean, these are all themes in one experience, one book, one movie. That's a lot to take in. In fact, we could do a whole series on just one of those themes. This movie and my choice to observe more closely the certain themes tells me a lot about me. And you know that from our last talk. So if I look at the importance of balance, that's really important to me. So it's one of the main themes, the need for balance between sense, which is reason, and sensibility, which is emotion. Sense and sensibility, reason and emotion. So Eleanor Dashwood, she embodies sense. She's the older sister. And Marion represents emotions, free emotions. She just blathers on and says whatever she wants to say. Whoever is slow to anger has great understanding, but he who has a hasty temper exalts folly. That's out of Proverbs. It reminds us that wisdom often lies in finding a balance between our emotions and rational thought. So I watched this movie way too many times in my 20s because my world was falling apart. I was physically ill. Nobody knew what was wrong. And I didn't know what to do. So my life was completely out of balance. And this movie kept me sane. I saw it a lot, too many times to tell you. But balance is possible. And at these times, when we reflect on balance, we consider the power of understanding and wisdom and will, because they affirm that we first find our balance and that we use it wisely. We need that. That's the key. We need to find our balance. And we can do so much more from that place. Another theme that comes out of that movie is growth through trial. So I can't even tell you the trials that Marion and Eleanor went through. Marion almost died. Eleanor thought she's lost the love of her life and just went on. So in the book of Romans, chapter 5, verse 3 to 4, we learn not only that, but we rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope. Trial, growth through trial, right? trials can refine us, help us grow into people that we were intended to be. Again, we can affirm that the use of our powers, again, of understanding, wisdom, and will, can support us into looking into the areas we need to grow, learning deeply, and bringing awareness willfully back to our lives. So, can you reflect on your own life and identify areas where you need to find balance? This is crucial. Where in your life do you need to find balance? Are you working too hard? Are you resting too much? Do you not see people enough? Do you eat too much, too little? Where do you need balance in your life? Maybe you need to watch Sense and Sensibility to get a sense of balance. I don't know. Find something. Talk to someone. And grow through trial. We all have trials. What challenges have you been called to face that can help you see your endurance, your strengths, and your hope? That's so important. So, as we reflect on the themes of sensibility, let's strive to find this balance in our lives and to embrace the growth moments, because life is multifaceted, love is multifaceted, and it requires both our sense and our sensibility. Take time to watch your life, sometimes like you're watching a movie, and see how all the pieces fit together and give you what you need, and show you how you can respond more gracefully and openly to every situation by being the observer who's seated maybe on your right shoulder or left shoulder, just watching things like a movie. Try to understand each character, each role everybody's playing. It makes it so much easier to handle life when you look at the world that way. Find your sense and your sensibility. Thank you. Marie-Josée, could you please go back to the video?